Hi, welcome to the podcast for When the Curves Line Up for January 1st, 2025, featuring the Venus and Mars winter shows. Please see the article that includes diagrams of today's events on the website at whenthecurveslineup.com. Text by Jeffrey L. Hunt. Events are described relative to sunset. Find sunset times for the month in local sources. During January, brilliant Venus stands in the southwestern sky after sunset, putting on a winter show. It brightens and appears higher in the sky after sunset. On New Year's Day, the evening star sets nearly 4 hours after sunset. Venus leads a bright four-planet display that is visible during the evening from the west-southwest to the east-northeast that includes the evening star, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. On the 1st, this planetary quartet spans over 152 degrees. The moon re-enters the western evening sky on the 1st in a new lunation that started on December 30th. Watch the moon wax as it appears farther eastward each evening. At 45 minutes after sundown on the 3rd, Venus stands nearly 30 degrees above the southwest horizon, 3.5 degrees to the moon's lower right. Saturn is nearly 14 degrees to Venus' upper left. The next evening the lunar crescent is to Saturn's upper left. For European sky watchers, the moon occults or eclipses the planet. As Venus steps eastward through Aquarius, it closes a gap to Saturn that spans 15.8 degrees on the 1st. On the 5th, the gap closes to 10.0 degrees, and it is reduced to 4.7 degrees on the 13th. Venus passes 2.2 degrees to the ring Wonder's upper right on the 18th, though Venus and Saturn are nearly 900 million miles apart in space. The four evening planets span nearly 129 degrees. This gap closes somewhat during the remainder of the month as Saturn creeps eastward and Mars retrogrades in front of Gemini. Venus reaches greatest elongation on the 9th, showing an evening half-full moon through the telescope. The planet is 47.2 degrees from the Sun, setting 3 hours, 58 minutes after nightfall. During the month through a telescope, the planet's phase decreases from a slight evening gibbous phase, 55% illuminated, to an evening crescent, 38% lit. The planet's apparent diameter increases nearly 50% as Venus' distance to Earth decreases from 68 million miles to 49 million miles. On the 19th, Venus sets 4 hours after nightfall, its greatest time interval after sunset, displaying a crescent 46% lit. While Venus overtakes Earth and appears larger, it brightens over 30% during the month. This is a noticeable effect. The planet reaches its greatest brightness during February. Venus passes 3.2 degrees to the right of Neptune on the 30th. At the end of evening twilight the pair's altitude is only 25 degrees. Look for the planets before they descend farther into the atmosphere's dimming and blurring effects. On the 31st, Venus is over 30 degrees above the southwest horizon and 10.7 degrees above Saturn. The crescent moon, 8% illuminated, is 3.4 degrees to Saturn's lower right. This evening Venus sets 3 hours, 53 minutes after the Sun. The bright four planets span over 123 degrees. Step outside during the early evening to see Venus winter show. During January, Mars puts on a show in the eastern sky after sunset. It is the fourth brightest star-like body in the evening sky during the month, after Venus, Jupiter, and Sirius, though it rivals the dog star's visual intensity at mid-month. On New Year's Day, the red planet rises in the east-northeast 75 minutes after sundown. Distinctly reddish in color, Mars is nearly 20 degrees above the horizon at 3 hours after sundown. It retrogrades in front of Cancer's dim stars, 8.4 degrees to Pollux' lower right, a Gemini twin. Mars retrogrades, appears to move westward compared to the stars, as opposition occurs on the 15th. Retrograde is an illusion as Earth overtakes and passes between Mars and the Sun. The line of sight from Earth to Mars and projected to the stars normally moves eastward compared to the starry background. While Mars seems to stop moving eastward, the line of sight shifts westward and the planet seems to back up compared to the starfield. Mars' orbit is a bit out of round so that its solar distance varies enough that the planet's view is better when Mars is at perihelion. At these perihelic oppositions, Mars can be as close as 36 million miles away. Currently, Mars is near aphelion, although the aphelic opposition occurs in 2027, and at its closest the planet is almost 60 million miles away. Through a telescope, the northern polar cap is diminished from the Martian spring that began November 12. Markings that appear as dark and bright regions can be discerned. Even though Mars is relatively close to Earth, the planet is small, about one-third Earth size. Due to the small size and varying distance, the planet is very challenging to see telescopically, unlike much larger and more distant Jupiter and Saturn. After the January moon passes Venus, January 3rd, Saturn, 4th, and Jupiter, 10th, it approaches Mars, appearing above it on the 12th. On this night, Mars is 4.5 degrees below Pollux as retrograde continues and it crosses the boundary from Cancer to Gemini. This is the night of Mars' closest approach to Earth, 3 nights before opposition. From the first, Mars' brightness increases 20%. It rivals Sirius, the night's brightest star, although the redder planet seems dimmer to the human eye. The next evening, the full, wolf, moon occults or eclipses Mars from large areas across North America. From Chicago, for example, the moon covers the planet beginning at 8:07 p.m. Central Time. The occultation ends at 9:16 p.m. when Mars reappears from behind the bright moon. This event can be tracked through a binocular or spotting scope. Earth passes between Mars and the Sun on the 15th, opposition. The planet rises in the east-northeast at sunset, appears high in the south at midnight, and sets in the west-northwest at sunrise. As Mars retrogrades, it makes some interesting configurations with Gemini's brightest stars. On the 16th, it appears along the same imaginary line, 8.3 degrees long, that begins at Castor and extends through Pollux to Mars. On the 22nd, Mars passes 2.4 degrees from Pollux, the second of 3 conjunctions. The first occurred on October 19. Mars retrograde carries it past Castor on the 31st for their second conjunction. The gap is 5.9 degrees. Since the nights of closest approach and opposition, Mars' brightness decreases 30%, slightly dimmer than on the first, mirroring the growing distance between Earth and Mars as our home planet speeds away. Look for the Mars show during January as it retrogrades and passes Gemini's bright stars. The lunar occultation adds to this opposition. Thank you for listening. Please read the articles at whenthecurveslineup.com.